Okay, everyone, let's talk about that then. I don't really know how to start. You all know the score. I don't need to tell you that. There were 8 goals, Enda. We got one of them. You can probably do the rest. It wasn't great, was it?
I mean, look, there's a lot to say about that game, and I think the tendency for Celtic fans is to jump on the immediacy of the everything's wrong, the board's wrong, the players are wrong, the tactics are wrong, and things like that. But we just played really badly. On top of not having good enough players to play Borussia Dortmund, and on top of leaving our midfield wide open for Julian Brandt to do whatever he wanted, everyone just played pretty badly, and I think that can happen. And when you play that badly at this level, they're going to punish you. So, and it also didn't help that, Dortmund scored with almost every shot they had. On another night, that is a 3-1. But tonight it was a 7-1 because they were able to score worldies. So, yeah, you take these defeats.
We have taken these defeats in the past, and we continue to, and I think that's part of the frustration we're all feeling, that every season virtually in the Champions League you've got at least one of these. Brendan Rodgers is kind of building up a bit of a catalogue of these horror results. So it's a tough one to try and discuss, because genuinely I would rather just moan for a little bit and then try and be positive about the chances we have in the rest of the competition, because I still think this Celtic team can qualify for the next round. I think we can finish in the top 24. And if you push me, I actually think we will. And there's an argument, you look at Dortmund away, and probably when the fixtures come out, it's a pot 1 team away from home. You're probably not expecting anything. You're clearly not expecting to concede 7 goals, and that was unacceptable, and we can discuss that. But maybe there's an argument that if you look at the overall campaign, it might not be horrendously damaging if we use it as a thing to kind of pick up. Put it this way, I'd much rather have played like that and lost to Dortmund and done it in the opening game and not beaten Bratislava. But obviously all this stuff now comes in about, did we just beat Bratislava because they weren't very good? So much to discuss. Tactics getting some criticism. Brendan Rodgers, we were quite open. I've got some quotes from Rodgers as well we can go into.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were talking about this game being a free hit coming into it, and it is a free hit insofar as it didn't matter if we lost the game, but we can't treat the bigger games as a free hit, as we can lose 7-1 again, because its goal difference is going to come into it. So, and I think that's what is probably most frustrating about this result, is that there's so much positivity going into the Champions League this season. You beat Bratislava at the doors and you set up yourself well. And I think these games against Dortmund, against Leipzig, against Aston Villa to an extent, they are not the games to play like we did today. They are not the games for Brendan Rodgers to test out his philosophy. Those are games to be as tight as you can and just get whatever you can get from it and hope that you come out with a marginal difference in the goals. Whereas Celtic played against Dortmund as if they were playing against Bratislava or against Ross County or St. Johnstone. They were so open and they were so naive, and I think that's what's most annoying about it, is that just wasn't the way to set up. And Brendan Rodgers, how many times does he need to get a drubbing in the Champions League before he realises it?
Well, I've got some comments from him after the game. I don't know if you've seen these, but on that point, basically, and side point, the guy interviewing him on TNT, I don't know if you've seen this, but I thought he was brilliant. He really pushed Brendan Rodgers, the role you want to see a reporter play. Danny Jameson, his name. So he was really pushing Brendan Rodgers. Celtic fans are unhappy. They keep seeing these kind of results in the Champions League. Are you going to change, basically? This was Rodgers' response. Are we going to sit in and camp and wait? No, we won't do that. We play a way that allows us domestically to dominate. We know it's going to be difficult at times to do that, but we have to show our ability with the ball. I thought tonight we weren't anywhere near that level. So, you can forget any notion of us going to Bergamo, to defend and try and get a draw. We're going to play similarly. I think there's things we can do differently, though. I think we can still pose a threat going forward, but not be so open. For people who are watching on YouTube, there are a couple of screenshots. If you're listening to the podcast, which you can now, you just have to imagine what I'm talking about. 2.5 minutes in, Enda, there's a moment. First time, I think it's Bernardo gives the ball away. Dortmund are in. It's like 3v2 or 4v3. Comes to nothing. We manage to get bodies back. A minute later, do we learn a lesson? No. Julian Brandt, who you're talking about, plays one pass, and look at how open we are. Like, it was, I couldn't get over how non-existent our midfield was, how open we were in those early stages of the game.
Well, that's the thing. The comments from Rodgers are interesting because they're sort of two-pronged. One, he is saying, players didn't play well, which is part of it. So, like, Celtic on another day will play better than that and, won't be as open. But why does it have to be night or day? Why does it have to be we either play this way or we're sitting and defending the entire game? All we're asking for is, like, Julian Brandt has been the best number 10 in Germany for the last decade. Like, we're talking about an internationally elite number 10, and we played one sitting midfielder, and Cal McGregor is not even a defensive sitting midfielder, and then we played two midfielders who were pushing up on deep-lying Dortmund players that don't really create much, and just letting Julian Brandt take up the role that he wants and create as many chances as he wanted. Like, it was almost as if Celtic were playing with 10 men at times. They had so much space, and you can't give these players space at this level. Like, you're talking about, like, the striker they had up front. He was the second top goal scorer in the Champions League last year after Harry Kane.
Bundesliga. 28 goals.
The Bundesliga. And so, like, why are you giving him space? Then you have Adeyemi, who's faster than any Celtic player by a complete mile. Then you have Julian Brandt, who's an unbelievable number 10. And you're giving them free rein in that area of the pitch that they want to operate in. That is not the same as parking the bus. We're just asking that Arne Engels sits back a little bit.
Yeah.
And that would have made all the difference.
Yeah, I think you're, because that is a debate. And listen, we had it with the previous manager. We had it the last time Rodgers was at the club at this level as well, and there seems to be the feeling is, you're either doing this or that, and what Celtic need to do is somewhere in the middle. I just thought it was strange tonight. The game didn't play out at all like I thought it would. I genuinely thought Celtic would have the ball a fair bit. I thought Dortmund would have more of it, and then I thought we would spring into action on the counter-attack with those front three. Now, Daizen Maeda I thought was fine in the game. I know he kind of pulled out the tackle for God knows what goal it was. But Kyogo and Kuhn didn't impact the game at all. But I thought, just the way how open we were, there was no reason for us to be that open early on. And as I say, there was two examples there that I just gave. Second minute, third minute, came to nothing, we got away with them. But we didn't learn from that at all. It was just I struggled to see what the game plan was, because when we got the ball, it wasn't even as if we were keeping the ball. We were trying to go forward right away. And that's something Brendan Rodgers mentioned as well, that he was unhappy with. And he said we were better in the second half. I just think Dortmund weren't playing at the same tempo in the second half. They didn't have to. No,
they weren't. And yeah, it was just so sloppy really in possession. Players fluffing their lines. Maeda's heavy touch for the sixth goal or seventh goal. And then just really simple things like the goal that came on the left hand side from a throw in, that just comes from a sloppy throw in. Celtic tried to play the ball straight out to Kyogo, comes straight back, and then within two passes they're in on goal, and they get another goal. I just thought overall it was an anti-Celtic performance, and quite disappointed with a lot of players in their performances, most probably with Arne Engels. Thought he was a bit lazy tonight. There was the first goal, he doesn't track the runner, who he kind of stops halfway between our box and halfway line and lets him run through, and they get a goal from that. And then there's been another couple of occasions where, fair enough, if you're being told that you're going to be that outlet for the ball coming out, but if the ball's not coming out, you just need to use your own brain, get back in, track the runner if he's running through. So just a lot of individual bad performances, and then that makes a team pretty bad. It
was strange because we've been so good so far this season, and all of the positives you look at so far this season on the night, and I stress it was one game, and we need to remember that, like, a lot of people, I've seen comments saying, we've massively overrated this Celtic team. We're actually just, terrible, and we've only beaten terrible teams and all of that stuff. I'm not going that far at all. I think it's up to the team to prove that was hopefully a one-off. To be honest, I've got my doubts. I'm already worried about Atalanta away on match day 3. I think that could be another tough night if we play like that. But we might see something different. The point I'm making is all the positives from earlier on in the season, you would turn to negatives based on that game. Even Kasper Schmeichel, I thought was questionable for a few of those goals. The long-range one from, I think it was Adeyemi.
It was a hat-trick goal, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a good goal. Dortmund fans would say it was a great goal. Schmeichel shouldn't be getting beaten there. So I was disappointed with that. I think if that was Joe Hart being beaten there, people would be ready to crucify him. As you say, Engels just didn't get in. Kuhn struggled badly, and even the one Kuhn had in the second half when he went through, no conviction at all. So kind of unlike what we've seen from Nicholas Kuhn in recent weeks. Bernardo, I thought, had an absolute shocker in the first half. I really thought Bernardo struggled. McGregor was poor. Is it just a bad night, or is it that this Celtic team are just nowhere near that level?
I mean, it's probably a mixture of all those things, isn't it? Like, we'd be lying if we said that many of the Celtic team would be in many of the upper table teams in the Champions League, it's just the reality of where we're at, which is fair. I think it was, I'm willing to scratch this one off as, do you know what, the players that we have who have been playing all year quite well just didn't perform. And that doesn't mean they get a free pass. It just means, sometimes players just don't play very, very well.
When they all don't perform, though, is that...
I think there's a few mitigating factors in the team. For example, Greg Taylor, people slaughtering him, saying he's not good enough for the level now that he had one bad performance at Champions League. I don't think he was fully fit. And I don't think Rodgers takes him off at half-time if he is fully fit. I think he leaves him in and just, maybe takes Valley on after 60 minutes or so. Trusty centre his second game really in an unfamiliar position. I don't like two left-footed centre backs, and I think the goal that he was defending, it deflects off his left foot and gets past Schmeichel. I think if that's Cameron Carter-Vickers going at that with his right foot, and it's easier to block.
It's easy to say with hindsight, but he's almost better just letting Adeyemi shoot there. Like, I think it was actually, ironically, I think it was Peter Schmeichel was the one who always used to say, just let the shot go away, because sometimes sticking a lazy leg out can do that and just deflect it in.
Exactly, yeah. I thought he was poor. There's no like excusing it, but it is his second game. So you're talking two of the main starters not really there for the defence. Then Bernardo, I thought it was a strange decision to start Bernardo in the first place. I would have went Hatate because, like, why mess with a formula that's working in the Champions League? I think Hatate is more suited to the Champions League football than Bernardo is. People think because Bernardo works harder than Hatate, that means he's better. But I think Celtic have more composure on the ball with Hatate. So
Hatate was decent when he came on.
Yeah.
Again, though, put him in that first half, would he have been as good? I agree. I think it's been a bit of an eye-opener there because Bernardo's been great. And listen, I wanted Bernardo to start, same team as Saturday, but I think at that level, keeping the ball is so important. And Bernardo struggled with that a bit. I think Hatate, as much as Hatate can be really slack at times, I think in games like that, sometimes he's the one, when he's got pressure on him, who's able to kind of have that composure to let the ball go across his body and then switch the play. And we just struggled with that. And
then the fact that Rodgers said that the pre-season games were the litmus test, or that's how Celtic planned to play in the Champions League against the bigger sides. It was Hatate that played in those games, and you saw in the second half, I know there was more space because Dortmund were kind of sitting off a little bit, but you saw a couple of times that Hatate took the ball and did get that switch to Kuhn, whereas that outlet was just not there in the first half, and Dortmund were just slaughtering Celtic as a result. So yeah, it was a night to forget for Bernardo, and probably a big wake-up call for himself and for some of the Celtic fans that have been like, oh yeah, we're not missing Matt O'Reilly at all. Bernardo is the man to fix that. Bernardo is not at the level that Matt O'Reilly is. He might get to that level this season, but he's certainly not there yet.
Yeah, I think it was a wake-up call, or whatever you want to call it, a rude awakening for everyone there, because it's been plain sailing so far this season, and Celtic have been an absolute joy to watch. And I still feel good about this team. As I said earlier, I don't think it's a case of like we just write everything off because we've gone down 7-1 to Dortmund. It's an embarrassing scoreline. I really hate losing like that in Europe because you see the usual tweets from the same accounts, the TNT and all that kind of stuff, and it's BBC, and it's soul destroying seeing these results. But we don't have any other option really but to move forward. And I just wonder what the reaction's going to be now from the team. I'm not talking in terms of Sunday, because I think we'll be fine on Sunday against County, but Atalanta away, it's not far. I think 3 weeks until that game. We've got another international break between now and then. That to me is a worrying match. And if we play anything like that, I would say Atalanta are pretty similar in level to Dortmund. Like I know they're not the name of Borussia Dortmund, and I know that it's not the stadium of Borussia Dortmund, but they have some real talent. And if we turn up and are that passive and that open and fail to impose ourselves in the game, we could be literally here in 3 weeks talking about another scudding.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the worrying aspect of it. And that's why I don't think these games can be treated as a free hit, and for Brendan Rodgers to test out his game plan is that it could be another scudding and it could be another demoralising defeat. And it's not so much you expect them to get a result against Atalanta. It's more so if Celtic go out and lose to Atalanta again 6-1, what does that do for their confidence when they're going to play Club Brugge or against Zagreb or Leipzig or any of the other teams that they still have to play? Like, you need to actually, as well as Celtic have momentum in the league, they need to have momentum in the Champions League as well, and they just can't keep losing by 6-7 goals in the Champions League and think it's okay. It's not going to be okay, and Atalanta will, with their pace, tear us to shreds if we leave as much space as we did against Dortmund.
So you think we can still cause them problems, but just be what you saying, a little bit deeper?
I think just Celtic went chasing after a couple of balls when
there was no way we were going to get them.
We're not going to get them, right? So don't do that. So Celtic had 4 or 5 players multiple times up in the Dortmund corner chasing off balls that they're not going to get. And then all it was a long ball over the top, and they've suddenly got an overload. They've got 4 against 3 in the defence, and they've got more pace and more quality. So don't do that, firstly. Secondly, I would say play a second holding midfielder, and that can be a Tate or that can be Engels, just so that McGregor isn't isolated as much as he is. And I think Celtic just need to get over this bad away form in the Champions League. Like, it's like completely different teams sometimes watching Celtic play away in the Champions League again and Celtic playing at home. Like, why can't they repeat performances in Celtic Park away from home? It's it's a hoodoo they need to get past. And I think the players just need to perform. Like, the players didn't perform against Dortmund at all. Like, that wasn't a reflection on the quality of the players. I don't think you can measure how good Kuhn or how good Kyogo or Arne Engels or Scales or Schmeichel are off that performance, because none of them played well. And I think that's an important thing to think about as well.
Yeah, I think the point you make about the difference between home and away games is vast, and we've seen that. It kind of died down for a few years. I think the first spell under Brendan Rodgers, a little bit under Ange Postecoglou. Some of our better performances were actually away from home. It was a kind of strange time, but certainly last season and this so far, the home performances have been pretty strong. We've not always got the results, but the home performances have been good. That's what fills me with confidence. I think there's a world here where we can qualify for the last 20 or the top 24, get the 10 points we need or the 9 points we need, and also probably get another couple of bad away defeats. I think, Atalanta, Aston Villa could be pretty sobering nights like we've just witnessed. I'd hope not to that extent, because that's not good for anyone. But for me, as soul destroying as that was, and I absolutely hated it, and I hate seeing a score like that, top 24 is what matters here. It's probably not going to come down to games like Borussia Dortmund away. This isn't me letting the team off, by the way. As we've said for the last 20-odd minutes, it was unacceptable. But it's probably going to be Young Boys at home, need to win that. Club Brugge at home, need to win that. Zagreb away, probably need a point. Probably 7 points from those 3 games will be enough. So it's probably going to come down to those 3 games. Leipzig at home, I think, will be interesting. I'm not writing us off that game. Atalanta, Villa away. Based on that, I'll be very surprised if we get anything. So you know what I mean? Like that was horrible, absolutely horrible. But I still feel when we get teams at Celtic Park, we can be effective. I think it's a totally different match at Celtic Park as away from home.
Yeah, and 10 points was always the sort of aim here. And like, let's be honest, like 10 points is a realistic thing to expect from the groupings that Celtic got. So, again, it's the expectation on the team to get those 10 points is harder to keep in mind when you get thrashed 7-1 like this against Dortmund. Everyone thought we were going to lose this game, but I don't think 10 points will get us through if other results go our way.
Yeah.
10 points won't get us through if we lose 7-1 to Dortmund, 6-1 to Atalanta, 5-1 to Aston Villa, and all of a sudden, like, all the goodness of the 5-1 win now against Bratislava, bar the points, is gone, because that's two goals now Celtic have in this competition. So if we lose another game by 5 goals, another game by 6 goals, we could end up in a situation where Celtic have a goal difference of like +1, +2. Yeah. And if it comes down to that goal difference, then you're going to look at these games in a different light. In that it was on these games that we didn't get through, not on the games that we expected to get points. So sort of like the Nations League, you don't want to rely on other teams to do it for you. You want to do it yourself. So that's probably my main takeaway from this, is just we know we're going to face difficult nights, but we don't want them difficult nights to turn into same old Celtic in Europe, losing by 6 goals.
Yeah, it's been a great start to the season. Generally, the team have got so much praise from us all, and it's been richly deserved. I've loved watching them. That was a bit of a shocker at Signal Iduna Park, so it's going to be interesting to see what we do going forward. Ross County, we've dropped to 19th, Enda in the table. We're not going to be quite as keen to show you the league table over the next couple of weeks. The glory days of us being second are firmly over. We're probably going to drop further than 19th as well once tonight's games take place. We move forward. Ross County at the weekend, and I guess I'll be up for it once it arrives, but I kind of can't be fussed right now. Like, I don't like the idea of Celtic being amazing at domestic level, and then the minute we go up against a top European team, we're just completely look like St Johnstone or look like Ross County. So how are you feeling about the weekend?
Same as that, really. we feel like that. I was thinking this morning, like, what it must have been like for Arne Engels, who came into the club the week of the derby, played the derby, then the next big game is the Slovan Bratislava Champions League game, and then he has to go to St Johnstone. No disrespect to them, but now he has to go from the magic of Dortmund to Ross County, which is the joys of playing in Scotland, really. But yeah, I think the main thing you're probably looking at is, does Trusty keep his place? Does Valya come into the starting lineup? Does Hatate now come back into the starting lineup? Like, what changes does Brendan Rodgers make, or does he stick to the formula with the current squad? So it'll be interesting to see the changes he makes.
I think Vi comes in, especially if Taylor's got an issue. I think Trusty probably continues. It's obviously far too early to kind of write him off. Ida probably comes in. He should have scored tonight, by the way. What a chance. Yeah. Right, I'm happy to leave that there, Enda. This has been torturous. It
wasn't a penalty either, the second one.
When was that?
The Arne Engels tipped his toe and your man fell down.
Similar to the Johnston one against Bratislava. You're not having it?
No, I'm not having it. Like,
I thought it was a penalty.
Like, he doesn't get the ball, fair enough, but also if that's a penalty, the game's happily gone.
Yeah, well, it is. We're going to be gone. Enda, thank you for joining. We'll catch up with you hopefully in a better day. It's actually lovely here in Melbourne. Not to rub it all in as you start to get colder wherever you are, if you're in the UK or whatever, but it's lovely. It's not changed the fact it was a pretty miserable game from Celtic. Not great, but yeah, we'll move forward. We're back tomorrow with John.